Now to our Making a Difference report here tonight. This story came from a haunting still photograph in the LA Times this week at the height of the wildfires. It looks like a kind of silvery Stonehenge. It's actually a group of firefighters inside their silver-coated emergency suits that they were trained to crawl inside if they fear being overrun by fire. We decided to look into this story to find those firefighters who tonight are ready to tell their story of just how bad it got. Here is NBC's Don Teague.
It's a hill too small to even have a name, sitting right next to the road. But for the men and women who were here as the Santiago fire raged,
we've never seen fire behavior like we've seen on this fire.
It will be remembered as the place 12 Orange County firefighters laid their lives in the narrow gap between life and death.
All this brush here, this was about hip high.
Fire Captain Mitch Kahn was leading his crew.
Here's the first spot that we started to hit,
trying to keep the flames from crossing this road and threatening hundreds of homes nearby. But with firefighters midway up the hill, the wind shifted. Flames roared all around.
They just had picks and shovels, and suddenly they had to retreat.
Veteran LA Times photographer Karen Tapia Anderson was taking pictures from the road.
As I'm photographing this, I'm thinking, where are they going to go? They're like in a chimney. You know, they're up at the top, and the flames are moving up towards them.
The firefighters had no option except to react as they'd been trained, pull out their emergency shelters, and crawl inside.
When fire crews made the decision to shelter on this hilltop, the ground itself was at least 300 degrees. So crawling into one of these was like crawling into an oven.
We just had a crew have a shelter deployment over here. The shelter deployment on the ridge line. We can use air support over here ASAP. I'll talk to them. I don't think you're going to get air support. I'm bringing you a strike team of engines.
The panic set in because once a fire shelter's deployed, that is just bad news. That's last resort.
Inside the shelters, the firefighters called for help.
Engine 22, what is your status, and do you have accountability for all crew members?
We've deployed shelters. Everyone's accounted for. Everyone in shelters.
I can honestly say I began to cry myself because I felt like they weren't going to make it. And I began to pray for those guys. I did. I prayed for those guys that they would be okay. I really did. And inside, my thought was, help them. Somebody help them. Do something. Do something.
It was the longest 15 minutes of their lives that ended when water dropped from helicopters doused the flames.
Those guys started coming out one at a time like a little cocoon, and they came out, and it was awesome. It was an awesome sight. And at that point, I said, those guys are heroes. They're awesome.
Firefighters are a bit more modest.
We've been fighting fire for 26 hours straight. We hadn't had a break. This was just another deployment, and you're doing what you can.
Their first thought, getting back to the fight.
They asked us all 12 sitting on the curb. They said, who wants to go back? And all 12 hands went up.
Back to standing in front of the flames, dedicated to protecting others. Don Teague, NBC News, Santiago Canyon, California.